Hello and welcome to Radiant Freedom Digital Marketing. This is a recording of Lesson 4, How to Improve Website Optimization, from our TGI SEO Fridays webinar series, recorded with Odin Xavier of the Canadian marketing team.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another TGI SEO Friday. It's Friday today. Oh goodness, it felt like Monday yesterday. And it's really nice to have you here today, Jason, to be moving us forward with understanding search engine optimization. I've been developing websites with you recently, and I've been watching you implement all of this information that you've been sharing with us, and I am happy. I'm really happy with that. Because it's that, as an entrepreneur, I never really understood the value of search engine optimization and how it could be used effectively. Most people, though, we want instant gratification. SEO is not about that. SEO is about long-term rewards and benefits. It's the long game when it comes to our business, and we need to think that way. So Jason, thanks for being here again to share with us your expertise in search engine optimization. And just so that everyone sees that a real person is behind the voice there. Hi, everyone. It's a real pleasure to have you here today. So Jason, please take it away and let us know what we'll be discovering today.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's a real pleasure to be here once again, joining you, Odin, and sharing my SEO knowledge with all of you. And yeah, the SEO is definitely not the glory. To use a football analogy, it's not the glorious long bomb into the end zone play. It's the nickel and dime it. It's the run it 5 yards, pass it 5 yards, and slowly drive your way down there. And if you ever watch any football games, Canadian or American, you'll notice that the majority of the scoring plays are doing just that. And many times it's getting it down to the 30-yard line and kick a field goal and just chip away at the other team. That's what SEO is very much about. So today, though, we'll be talking about another more technical part of SEO. And that's website optimization. So we'll be giving you an introduction to that today, and then getting into more details in future ones. And what we'll cover today is what website optimization is, how optimization affects your website stats, SEO rankings, and visitors, some best practices to limit file sizes, which we'll get into why that's important in a moment, and some tools that you can use, including tools in WordPress for those of you who use a WordPress site. So now we'll take a look at what is website optimization. All right, so what website optimization is it's a way of making sure that your website loads fast for your visitors. Now, the way that works is a website is, of course, a set of files that visitors must download to their computers so their web page they want to see can be displayed in their browser. Now, each file that needs to load has a size to it, and the bigger the file, the more files there are, the more data that needs to load, and the longer it takes for your website to load for people. Now, on computers, data is measured by a unit that's known as a byte. Now, for the purpose of this, you don't need to worry about what a byte is. Just know that the more bytes there are in a file, the bigger the file is and the longer it takes for it to download, and therefore the slower your site will be. Now, there's also a few other measurements tacked onto bytes. So there's kilobytes, which is about 1,000 bytes, a megabyte, or megs for short, which is about 1,000,000 bytes, and gigabyte, or gigs for short, which is about 1,000,000,000 bytes. And there are larger units, but we don't need to get into that. And as I said, the more bytes your website uses, the longer it will take to load. So now we'll take a look at how this optimization affects your website stats, SEO rankings, and visitors. So first, taking a look at the stats, if your website takes longer than 10 seconds to load, you have already lost most of your audience. Even at 5 seconds, you're losing audience to your slow page load times. Now, one of the most sensitive pages on your website is the home page. which is one of the most common first pages that people will see, and the one that's therefore the most sensitive to load times. And when I'm talking about load times, I'm referring to how many seconds it takes for a page to load in the browser. So in general, the longer the time it takes to load equals people not seeing your message equals low conversions. So if people are leaving your website before it even finishes loading, that will kill your conversion rates and skyrocket what's known as your bounce rate. And this is something now where we're getting into how this affects your SEO rankings. So when you start getting what's known as a high bounce rate, and just a refresher, the bounce rate means people are leaving your website on the page they entered from and having no interaction with your website. And a high bounce rate tells search engines like Google or Bing that your website is not interesting or not relevant. That means the search engines will tend to start moving other more engaging websites above yours. And so you will start moving down the search rankings. Now, how this affects people is that will waste your visitors' time as they start attempting to access your slow website, and will start trying their patience. And that is not the kind of impression you want to leave on people, especially a first impression. Now, also, having a slow and unoptimized website costs you money directly. So by needing all this extra data, it will also force you to need to have a more expensive hosting plan sooner, as each visitor puts a higher load on your host servers. Now, most hosting plans have limits on how much data you can move in a given time period, which is usually measured in a second or a fraction of a second, and is referred to as your bandwidth. Now, once you exceed this, they can start doing things to your website, such as freeze your website for a period of time, which means that nobody can access your website. It'll just give an error page. They can throttle it, which makes it even slower still. And basically what that means is other websites that are using the same servers as you are will get priority over your website. So that means that people have difficulty getting at your website. It'll be even slower still and may even give them timeout errors. And the third thing that they might do is just start directly charging you extra monetary fees for going over the limit. And ultimately what this means is that you'll need to expand your bandwidth, which means that you'll need to sign on to a more expensive plan with your host. So now let's take a look at the benefits of having a fast and efficient website. So a fast website that's efficient will, on the other hand, load the information you want to share with your visitors quickly and efficiently, so your visitors see it while you still have their attention. They will feel welcome in navigating your site and interacting with it, as far as operation and speed is concerned. So now we know what having an inefficient website does to you. Let's start taking a look at some best practices that can help you make your website more efficient, load faster, and be more respectful of your visitors' time. So some best practices to limit your file sizes. Now, the main thing to keep in mind here, first of all, is there are three main things that will slow your website down. The first is having big, high-resolution images. The second is having too many programs running on it, which often are known as scripts when you're dealing with the web, as well as having too many large multimedia files, which can include audio files, still graphics, images, videos, and a few other types of media. And all these things tend to be big files that slow your website down considerably, if overused. So first, let's take a look at images. So it's best to limit the size of your images to the exact size you need, as measured in pixels. So what you'd want to do is, for example, if you need an image that's 300 by 200 pixels on your website, and the image that you currently have that you want to use there is 1,000 by 500, then what you'd want to do is use a combination of cropping out unnecessary bits and then shrinking it down to exactly that 300 by 200 pixel size that you need. And you can use various graphic editors like GIMP, Photoshop, Microsoft's Paint, which comes preloaded on most Windows installs, and there's many others that you can use as well, whichever you prefer.
Are they pretty easy to use, Jason? How easy is it for someone like me to use this?
Most of them for just resizing and cropping images are very easy to use. You basically select the area that you want to keep. Select the option in there, which is usually fairly easy to find, called crop. In fact, probably the easiest is Paint if you're just doing a simple thing like this. Because the crop option is right out on the main toolbar. It'll be right front and center, basically.
Right on.
Figuratively speaking. And same with resizing is also fairly easy to find in most of these. It'll usually be pretty intuitive where it is. And so the ultimate goal here is if you need a 300 by 200 image, is that the image you upload is exactly 300 by 200. Because what happens, and the reason why this is important, is because if you have that big 1000 by 500 image, even though it's only being displayed as 300 by 200, it's still loading that full file, which if it's, let's say, a 1 megabyte high resolution image file, then that means each time someone loads that page, it needs to load that 1 megabyte image, whereas the 300 by 200 might be, say, 50 kilobytes or 100 kilobytes. So that's going to take only a fraction of the time to load that image. And that big image, you don't really need it to be that big because it's not going to be displayed that big anyways. And if you later on find you have somewhere else where you do need a 1000 by 500 image somewhere, you can always keep the original and load it in that specific page where it's absolutely needed. And by doing this, you will speed up your website significantly.
So last week when we were on together, you showed us this website, and it actually was able to show us the download speed of our website, and it also showed us which images we could resize and so on. So very cool tool from last week that we can use. But all of this takes time. How much time should we spend on doing this?
Oh, this actually is probably, if you've been doing it, if you do this right from the start, then it shouldn't take you all that much time. It takes me like maybe 5 minutes or so to get an image size just right,
Cool.
for the need it has. If you've not been doing this and you have a big site that's been going for a long time, maybe a lot of blog articles, stuff that's been published on it, and you have like dozens or even hundreds of images have built up on your site that are not optimized, then this could take a while to get it implemented initially. So now,
Thank you.
Yeah, now taking a look at another thing that can slow your site down, which is too many scripts, which, as we mentioned before, those are basically little snippets of code that run as your website's loading. And this is most common usually with a system like a WordPress website, when someone gets a huge number of unnecessary plugins or themes installed on the site. And the best way to fix this is make sure you only use those plugins that you need, and that you delete any unnecessary themes that you're not using. And same goes if you're using a hand-coded website that you need to run scripts on. Make sure you only have the scripts loading on a page that page absolutely needs to run. So if you, for example, have a contact form on a page, then the scripts that handle that contact form make sure that it tests it for errors and problems, and then sends sends the submitted form through to your email is the only thing that should be loading on there, if that's all you need, for example. And now the third one, too many multimedia files. Media files can get very large and
So when you say a script,
sorry
about that. When you say a script, what do you mean by that? Like just what we're writing into our website?
Those would be snippets of programming code that are designed to run with your site. So,
Okay.
for example, JavaScript is a very common one, which usually runs once the site loads in your browser.
I was thinking marketing and I was thinking call script. So now I'm on track. I understand the script you're talking about, like C++, Java, all that stuff. Okay, cool.
Yes,
Got it.
exactly.
Thank you.
And Java is still one you can encounter on websites, so that's not very common now that you have other more convenient ones like PHP and JavaScript, which is different actually from Java, by the way. So, right. So with having too many media files, so media files can get very large and severely affect the speed of your website. So first thing is to consider only using those media files that you absolutely need, and keep your videos short, particularly on your highest traffic pages, such as your home page, about page, as well as any of your other most popular pages, which you can find out which are your most popular pages by taking a look at something like Google Analytics, if you've installed that on your website, and that'll tell you which pages are getting the most traffic, and therefore which ones are the most critical to make sure you keep them well optimized. So what can you do with those longer videos, or if you have a lot of videos that you need to share? Well, consider keeping those longer videos on a separate page or a dedicated section, such as maybe a video gallery that's dedicated to this specific thing. And what that'll do is it'll keep those big files, it'll slow your site down, separate it out so that they only load when they absolutely have to. So, when someone specifically wants to see those big videos. And in that case, a person knows that they're loading a bunch of big videos and they expect that it might take a little while for them to load. While at the same time making sure that people that aren't looking for those don't have to wait around for those things to load. So now that we've taken a look at some best practices that you can use from the start in terms of organizing your website and your files, now let's take a look at some other simple tools that you can use that can also help speed your website up, including a plugin that'll help with this in WordPress. So some simple tools, which after you've done all the that you can with limiting the sizes of your pages, making sure that your files are exactly the size they need to be, that any big images that you need to use, big videos, other media files, are kept separated out into their own gallery section where only the people that actually want to see them need to wait for them to load. There are still a number of tools at your disposal to even further speed up your website. And the first one we'll be talking about is caching. And what this does, it actually tells the browser to keep temporary copies of your website files, on the visitor's own computer, so that the browser can quickly load them up internally from its own hard drive, instead of waiting for them to get transferred, through the networks and your telecommunications stuff there, which can significantly speed up your page load times after the first time a person has visited. So the first time it will need to actually download all the files, but after that it'll have a local copy stored and won't need to download them. So when a person's visiting a same page, say second, third, fourth time, or multiple different pages that load, let's say, the same image, then it'll, from the second time onwards, it'll load much faster. And the second thing, and this thing here, there's actually a WordPress plugin that actually helps manage all this for you and set all this up. The one that I usually recommend is called W3 Total Cache, which is what I use for all my clients. And the second thing you can do, which works well for particularly things like scripts, it can also work for image files and many other types of things that can be compressed, is called file compression, which on the internet often is called minify as well. And what this does, it enables files to be stored and transferred in a compressed format where they use up less bytes of data. So they can be sent to your visitors, taking up less time and also less of your bandwidth. And again, W3 Total Cache does have built-in minify features as well. And so by optimizing the usage of your media files, scripts, images, and implementing these two simple tools, you can significantly speed up your website, which will then both boost your conversion rates, cut the costs of your website, and make it easier for you to move it up the SEO rankings. So that covers website optimization. So do you have any questions?
I think it was good, Jason. My concern is always, I'm already so busy that putting more SEO. You know what, guys, if you're listening to this, just talk to Jason. He'll help you out. He'll do the process with you and for you, and super affordably also. So Jason, thanks for helping me out and everyone else that's listening here. And for those do-it-yourself guys, Jason's giving you really all of the awesome information. I don't have any questions other than the ones I asked. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
And if anyone else on here has any questions, you can feel free to unmute yourself at this point and join in.
We can have questions underneath, and they can get onto your YouTube channel too. Do we have that YouTube channel here that everyone can go check out?
Yeah, so it's actually on the next slide.
Oh.
So so if you need to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me by email. Email is on the screen, jasonross@radiantfreedom.com. You can also visit my website, www.radiantfreedom.com, which is also on the screen. And I also have my YouTube channel address on the screen, as well as Odin's YouTube channel.
Thank you.
As well, and I encourage you to go and visit Odin's channel, as he's got a ton of great videos from webinars and interviews he's done dating back for I think at least a year or two, something like that.
2007 actually, but a year or two. Yes.
Yeah, so going on practically right back to the beginning of YouTube then.
Yeah, pretty much, yes.
Yeah, awesome. So
thank you very much, Jason, and look forward to seeing you all at our next, thank God it's SEO Friday. I love the name of that.
Yes.
It's
great.
For
sure. And next time around next time around there's actually a live demo that I was thinking about doing here, but we had way too much information to go through. And I'll actually be demonstrating a tool that you can use to find out how well optimized your website is, how fast it loads or how slow it is, and how critical it is, therefore for you to do some fixes to it to get these optimization points in. And that tool is called GT Metrics, and we'll be looking at that in 2 weeks' time.
Once again, thank you for watching our webinar. If you found it helpful, make sure to hit that thumbs up button to let us know. If you have any comments or questions or feedback on the webinar, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. And if you're not subscribed, be sure and subscribe to get updates of more awesome content coming up. I also recommend you check out Odin's channel, link in the description down below. And the schedule for our upcoming TGI SEO Fridays webinars is also in the description below, along with the link where you can sign up to attend live. I highly recommend you get on them live, as you'll get the chance to ask questions and get them answered live on the webinar, content that you will not see in these replays. Now remember, you're awesome, so shine your awesomeness for the world to see. This has been Jason from Radiant Freedom. Bye for now.